Hey guys, and welcome to Let's Click Photography. And this, the second episode of our Spotlight on Location series. A guide for you as photographers around some of the most beautiful locations in England. Here's what's coming up. Today we'll be taking a look around Tarn Hows and the Gill Falls. We'll be heading along to Hall Tarn and its famous lone tree. We'll visit the beautiful classic composition that is Blea Tarn. Plus, we'll find out how Andrew Hamilton got a classic shot at Yew Tree Tarn, and we head to the States to find out about the favourite location of PC3 Photos, Paul Cook. So now we know what's coming up, settle back and let's take a trip around the tarns of the Southern Lake District, starting off with the epically beautiful Tarn Hows. Once under the ownership of a certain Beatrix Potter, no less, Tarn Hows is an easily accessible beauty spot in the Southern Lake District. It's located just to the north of Coniston and to the west of Windermere, and it is most likely that you will approach the Tarn from the Windermere side by road, which brings you initially to the small free car park at Surprise View, which overlooks the Tarn. And it is from the Surprise View car park that you can make your way along the road at the side of it or across a little bit of rough terrain, some ups and downs, for a short walk to make it here to the National Trust monument to the Scott family who died here in the 1930s. For very little outlay in the way of hiking, you can get a classic shot using the memorial stone as foreground, looking out over the Tarn to the mountainous vistas. Of course, whilst you're here, you might as well get a panoramic of the beautiful Tarn in all of its glory. Once you have bagged all of your shots from this side of the Tarn, head on back to your car at Surprise View car park and follow the narrow road further down to the National Trust car park, keeping an eye out for the local residents that amble along the road as you go. Once you head into the National Trust car park, you'll find a National Trust store, toilets, and at busier times, an ice cream van, along with picnic tables and maps of the area. It is chargeable and costs between £5 and £7.50, but when you're ready, you just a hop, a skip, and a couple of bunny rabbit jumps across the road from the Tarns. And once you cross over that road, you'll get to here and you've got a couple of options available to you as Tarn Hows opens up in front of your very eyes. You can either decide to do the circular route around the Tarn, which is around 2.2 miles, maybe about an hour's walk, but of course you'll be stopping for photography, so probably a couple more. You can go off track down towards the old barns of Tarn Hows and make your way through to the Gill Falls from there and get some really unique compositions that are few and far between because nobody really goes that way. Or you can head down the Mary Glen route to one of the most amazing falls in the Lake District. The Glen Mary route starts about a minute's walk from the car park. Just follow the path and go through the gate, which goes over the dam which holds back the Tarn, and there you will see a signpost for the Glen Mary car park and the Gill Falls. Following the Glen Mary stream, you'll start to notice some small cascades as you make your way downstream, but there are better waterfalls to come, and they have a little touch of romance about them. So you may hear these waterfalls called by two different names. Gill Falls were the original name for these waterfalls, and they trickled down from a small tarn that was just up from where we was, in the place of the tarn as it is today. And the tarn as it is today wasn't how nature made it. This was actually, Tarn Hows was actually 3 tarns. And in the mid 1800s, a former MP for Leeds by the name of James Garth Marshall took ownership of the Coniston estate. And the 3 tarns that were here, very small tarns, were mostly surrounded by cattle feeding land. And James Grant Marshall didn't like the idea of that. He wanted his guests to be wowed when they came to his estate. So he set about creating Tarn Hows in the form that we've got to know it. And he also wasn't too happy with the name Gill for the water that flowed from his newly built tarn. So he came up with the idea of calling it Glen Mary, because Mary was his romantic interest. Now, as I'm sure you'll have been able to tell by some of the footage there, it isn't the easiest place to get to if you're not sure-footed. There's lots and lots of rocky little climbs, although we are actually just about 5 minutes walk from Tarn Hows. If you're comfortable on your feet, it won't be a problem, but if you're not, probably give this one a miss. But it is spectacular, as I mentioned before. It's one of my favourite waterfalls, and that's not because it's got a huge drop or it's a massive force. It's just because of the intricacies of the fall itself. Now, there's definitely more than one way you can shoot this waterfall, but for me personally, I just like to get it big in my lens and snap it in all of its glory. As I mentioned about the Gill Falls, or the Mary Glen Falls, whichever you choose to call them, they are one of my favourite. That first set of falls, the intricacy of those falls, the patterns that are formed, it's just beautiful. It's not the tallest waterfall, it's not the most explosive waterfall, but it is just a thing of beauty, and I personally love to photograph it. And all of these things help to really make Tarn Hows one of my favourite locations. But as photographers, I think we all have favourite locations. So why don't we head over to the state of Florida in the United States of America. From PC3 Photos, this is Paul Cook and his favourite location.
My favourite location? That's an easy one. Ross Witham Beach. It's a beach located about 70 miles north of where I live. Now, when most people think of Florida, they think of our beaches, and we definitely do have some of the prettiest beaches in the world, but really they're more tailored towards sunbathers and swimmers. And from a photography standpoint, they can be a bit boring. You know, we just don't have the massive sea stacks and rugged coastlines like other locations do. But Ross Witham Beach is quite a bit different. Now, really, it's just a short stretch of beach, but it's made up of limestone and coral reef cliffs and is unlike any other location that you're gonna find anywhere else in the state of Florida. Now, I've had the opportunity to photograph this beach 5 or 6 times now, and the conditions are always different. At low tide, you're able to get down onto the beach under those cliffs. Now, really, those cliffs are only about 8 to 10 feet tall, but if you're using a wide angle lens, you're able to exaggerate the height of those cliffs and just come away with some amazing images that don't look like you're in Florida at all. Now, at high tide, you don't want to be anywhere down on that beach, but you can position yourself up on top of the cliffs, and as the surf comes crashing into the base of those cliffs, it sprays the water high up into the air, and you're just able to come away with some amazing seascape images. And being located on the east coast of Florida just makes Ross Witham Beach the perfect sunrise location, especially since it's a relatively quiet location compared to the touristy glitz and glam locations that we have here in South Florida. So yeah, beautiful sunrises, crashing waves, limestone cliffs. That's why Ross Witham Beach, located in Martin County, Florida, is my favorite location to photograph here in the Sunshine State.
Well, what an absolutely beautiful part of the Sunshine State. I can certainly see why that would be Paul's favourite location. And if you're interested in seeing more of that location and plenty more besides, then you'll definitely want to pay a visit to Paul's channel, PC3 Photos, which is linked down in the description below and also on this handy little card right around here. We haven't got time to hang around today because we've got a couple more tarns to visit here back in England in the southern lakes. So let us head off to what could be described as something of a one-shot tarn, but it is a beautiful shot. From Tarn Hows, Hall Tarn really couldn't be any simpler to get to. It's about a 15-minute drive. So on your sat nav, you can either type in Hall Tarn or you can type in Torver Common. Either way will bring you to the same place. As an alternative, you could also try typing in Lakeland Jaguar, which is where you're going to park. A car park opposite is free for people to use to access Hall Tarn. That building just behind me is that, so you can see how close we are to the entrance gate, and Hall Tarn is just behind where you guys are, about 2 minutes walk up a little bit of an embankment. There is a word of message for the car park that I should mention, is that it is built for Range Rovers and high wheelbase vehicles, so be careful. It is quite a steep incline in various parts of the car park. So let's head up and see this shot. It really is a one-shot location. I mean, you can definitely take more than one shot here, there's no doubt about that whatsoever, but it's really all about the reflections and this tree. Now, Hall Tarn might not have loads of shots, but it's still definitely worth a visit. It's a lovely location and really easy to reach, so it becomes one of those why not locations if you're in the area. A location though that is definitely not just a why not, but a must visit if you're in this part of the world. Our classic composition, Blea Tarn. And on the way, we're going to pass another lovely little tarn, Yew Tree Tarn. But rather than me telling you about Yew Tree Tarn, I'm going to pass over to one of my favourite landscape photographers. So let's go and find out how Andrew Hamilton, from the aptly named Andrew Hamilton Photography, shot Yew Tree Tarn.
Yeah, so thanks Dave. This is an absolute Lake District gem. It's a beautiful tarn. I'd originally planned to take a walk up the Old Man, but as I got in the car and started my journey, it became apparent with the low cloud and the mist and the fog that was covering the peak that it was probably unwise to mount an attack on that particular hike on that morning. So I headed on out of Coniston, about 5 minutes up the A593 towards Ambleside. And there's where you happen upon this beautiful tarn. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's roadside. There's a lay-by for parking and you can probably fit maybe 6 or 7 vehicles in there. On arriving at the tarn, it was beautifully set with the low mist and the cloud drifting through those low trees that were clinging to the fell side. There was a cornucopia and abundance of autumnal colours on the trees, and the leaves were in full bloom, making it an ideal day to shoot those autumn images. There is a pathway that links roadside into the woods. It is quite narrow, so do be considerate to others when you are setting up your tripod and your gear. So looking at the compositional opportunities that morning, I did use all three of my holy trinity of lenses, the 10-24, the 24-70 and the 70-200. This particular image that I want to share with you today, this was taken with the 70-200. I was at 90mm. I tried to get as much right in camera on location as possible, so this image isn't cropped at all. It was all about making sure that I framed the scene correctly whilst on location and making the most of the time that I had to get as much of the images right. Settings wise, I was at f8, didn't require a huge depth of field, and that is the sweet spot for this particular lens, and ISO 100. You've got those beautiful autumn colours, and you've got the early morning golden sidelight illuminating those leaves and that foliage and making some absolutely stunning images. This composition does entirely break the rule of thirds, but for me it absolutely works, making this a perfect mirror-like reflection image. So I hope this helps you have a great shoot, and I'll pass you back to Dave.
Thanks so much, Andrew. Just like Paul before, Andrew has a channel linked on the card above and down in the description below. So please do go and pay him a visit if you don't already subscribe to him, which you definitely should do. But now, on to our classic composition and our classic location, the beautiful Blea Tarn. To get to Blea Tarn, you'll head north from Tarn Hows over into Keswick, around 13 miles away. The journey will take about 30 minutes along some precariously narrow roads, so do take your time and take care along the route. And once you arrive at Blea Tarn, there's a National Trust car park directly opposite. And when you park, you are quite literally 2 minutes away from just one of the most photographic scenes in the whole of the Lake District. This is a National Trust car park, so of course parking does cost and ranges from £5 to £7.50 for all day. Of course, if you're a National Trust member, then you'll just use your National Trust card, scan it at the machine and get your ticket. So once your parking is all paid up for, you've got your kit, you are set to go on the long, grueling hike to Blea Tarn. The pathway to Blea Tarn, and pretty much Blea Tarn itself, is immediately over the road from the car park, and the views are immediate as well. There is very little effort other than driving here to get to this absolutely beautiful location. But it's not just those beautiful initial views on offer here. There's plenty more to Blea Tarn than just the classic composition. So head along the path down to the bridge where you can take in a different view along the stream. From there you can head into the woodland on the far side, or go exploring through the gate next to the stream and encounter the waterfalls that flow into the valley below. But for most photographers, the main purpose of a visit to Blea Tarn will be to get this classic composition from the shoreline. And quite a few will choose to come and stand on this side of this fence, which leads into the tarn. And of course, it's so easy to see why. With its leading lines, this beautiful tarn on a still day. Fabulous trees which poke in from the left, and the stunning background as we see side pike and the Langdale pikes up behind. This is a composition well worth capturing. But for me, I prefer to head a little bit further along the shore to make use of the stunning rocks that scatter around the shore of Blea Tarn and get that polarizer on and really soak up the majesty of the Langdales and the beautiful reflections you can get in Blea Tarn on a still day. Could there be a more quintessential Lake District landscape photography shot for such little effort? I'm not sure that they can. Well, that about wraps it up for us today. I hope you've got a lot out of this. I hope it's helped you to make some plans for your visit to the Lake District. I hope you have a fantastic day whenever it is that you come to photograph the Lake District. Genuinely appreciate you hitting that subscribe button and clicking that thumbs up. Thanks again to Paul and Andrew. You can find their channels down in the description below. Please do go and visit them and take a look at their content as well, which is just, for both channels, fantastic. But from here in the Lake District, I've been Dave, and this has been Let's Click Photography. And from me, for now, ciao.